has officially named his final 23 of the year, and the 7-1 split is back, as we thought, given the fact that it is a very depleted squad, and as a result, the Springboks are forced to deploy the new squad, the 7-1 split. Cobus Reinach, the only backline player on the bench. Kwagga Smith will potentially have to cover some of those positions as well. But let's go through the line, shall we? In the number 1 jersey, Gerard Stendekamp starting next to Johan Grobler and Wilco Louw. So the All Bulls front row getting a rare start together in the green and gold. Jean Klein gets a second start of the day, and he's next to Ruan Nokia in the number 5 jersey. Siya Kolisi starts once again as he adds to his 102 caps next to Franco Mostert, who gets named in the number 7 jersey. As expected, Jasper Wiese will continue at the back of the scrum. Morne van der Berg gets a start next to Sacha Feinberg-Mngomezulu. Canan Moodie will start in the number 11 jersey, Ethan Hooker in the number 14 jersey. Interesting to see that they have swapped those jerseys. Definitely something that the Boks are probably trying to look and see how they both do on different wings. For example, you got Andre Esterhuizen will partner Damian Allende, who will start at outside center. I think he's only started once or twice there in his career, actually, as he gets very close to that 100 mark, his 97th cap on Saturday. Damian Willemse starting at full back. Then off the bench, Bongi Manambi, Zachary Porthen covering Lucid, and Asenate and Tlabakanye getting his first opportunity of the tour. You then got Evan Etzebeth, Marco van Staden, Ben Jason Dixon, and Kwagga Smith all on the bench. Cobus Reinach in the number 23 jersey will have to be doing a lot of potential covering. And this is all due to the fact that the Boks are just down to their bare bones, really, when it comes to the squad itself. So what do you think of the squad? Let me know down in the comments below, because this is what it looks like. And I think it's what we expected, really. I mean, there's a couple of selections. For example, I mean, I went with a different front row. Then going with sort of the Bulls one. Ruan Nokia, I think starting is not necessarily a surprise, but Franco Mostert at 7, him versus Ben Jason Dixon. The rest of the team were going to be pretty straightforward, to be perfectly honest, because there's just not a lot of other ways we could have formulated this side. There's not a lot of other options within the squad. Even in the squad at the moment, from my understanding, the only person not actually involved is Allende. Unless somebody else has joined, the training squad, this is just basically what's left. And if we go look at some of the stats, for example, the good news is there's still plenty of experience. So Cobus Reinach, by the way, will make his 50th appearance for the Boks, but off the bench for the second time in a row. We're seeing that. And he needs 5 points to get to 100 points in the green and gold. It'll be a nice way to sort of bring up his 50th. Evan Etzebeth will extend his Springbok record as the most cap player to 141 caps. This is Damian Willemse's 49th cap, by the way, so he will get that 50 cap next year. Damian Allende will need only 2 after this weekend to get to that big 100. In terms of our record against Wales, we've only lost 5 of our 24 matches away from home, going back to 1994. The last time we lost to Wales was in Cardiff. In Cardiff was in 2018. And in terms of the experience that we've got, the total test caps in the Springboks lineup is 525. The average caps per player in the back line is 32. In the forwards, 38. Players on the bench, 47. So it's a very experienced bench, with the exception of, a Zach Porthen, Asenate Tlabakanye, and Kwagga Smith. Not Kwagga Smith, Ben Jason Dixon, rather. In terms of what Rassie Erasmus had to say about it, he said that we know from the outset that we would lose players from this match due to their club commitments, and we are pleased with the quality of the team we've selected. We've been rotating our players throughout the year, and this group has been together for close to 5 weeks, so many of these combinations are fully settled, while others such as Zachary and Asenate have shown that they are capable of the season, and we are excited that they will receive another opportunity to play. I'd like to thank the provincial unions and clubs who released these players to represent the country this weekend, so we could field a strong side capable of finishing our November tour on a high note. He then said, we've used a total of 49 players in test matches this season, which is a testament to the depth we have been developing with an eye on the 2027 Rugby World Cup. So Allende would have been number 50, actually, if he had played. Speaking about Cobus Reinach, though, he said that Cobus is a true team man, and he's been a standout player for us this season and over the years, so we are delighted to see him earn this achievement. He's patiently waited for his chances and grabbed every opportunity with both hands, so to see him achieve this at 35 years old makes it even more remarkable feat. And then speaking about the 7-1 split, he said the composition of the bench was a combination of the availability of players we had for this match, but also given how well our pack has performed this season. And we believe it will be a key area on the match. I mean, as Wales, you've got to be really panicking if you look at that kind of bench and the way that they could potentially deploy that. I mean, it is absolutely mental. In terms of what he said to Wales, though, he said, we are expecting them to come out firing and throw everything at us. This is also the last match of the year for both teams, so there's no doubt they'll be give everything to finish this season on a high note and try to improve their world ranking with the Rugby World Cup draw coming next week. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward team with regards to what was left in the reserves, and it's a situation where it's the end of the season. We've kind of ended up with this sort of squad, and we kind of have to just make do really with what we've got. Obviously, this has been it's kind of been designed. There would have been conversations with the unions with regards to players that they have to keep, players they might have available. So, for example, the Bulls, allowed them to keep a Canan Moodie, the front row, Reinach and the likes of that. The Sharks, on the other hand, for example, said, well, you can keep Eben, you can keep Siya, you can take Bongi, you can take Instuko, but we really need Grant Williams back, and we really need Edwin van der Merwe back as well, who already left the squad due to the birth of his child. And then the box basically probably just said, well, it's fine, we can probably make do without those sort of players. And then what's quite interesting, I think the most interesting selection for me is Jean Klein, given the fact that he plays for Munster and that they've allowed him to come and play for the box this weekend. That was always going to be I think that was quite an interesting situation, because very, very rarely do we see European sides allow players to play outside the international window. That's why, for example, Australia never get to really use Will Skelton, because of mandatory rest periods, for example, where the different where we have games outside international windows, for example, your club commitments are governed by the international windows where you sort of play, Southern Hemisphere, Northern Hemisphere windows. So it's an interesting one that John Kane has been allowed to play by Munster. And shout out to Munster for allowing that, for letting him go out and play. I mean, it's a very good side. It's a very strong side. I still maintain that I think this game's a bit of a I won't say a disaster, but it's a bit of a frustrating game, given the fact that more so Wales really than us, because Wales have been absolutely gutted by the fact that this is outside the test window. And look, I mean, I suppose, some people are saying, well, they're going to get to expose players and build their depth. We get to build our depth. I wouldn't say there's that many fringe players in this side, to be perfectly honest. If you look at the starting lineup, the only sort of fringe players, inverted commas, these days are Morne van Berg. Jean Klein hasn't played much. That's more to injury than anything else. Everybody else is pretty settled. I mean, Ethan Hook is pretty settled these days in the box squad. Canan Moodie's very settled in the box squad. On the bench, you got, Asanati, Zachary Porthen, Ben Jason Dixon. Bongi Manami's kind of been phased out. But I don't think we don't suddenly have this 9-10 players who are kind of all on the fringes and not getting opportunities and not playing and haven't been around. So yeah, from that regard, I wouldn't say there's that many fringe players, but it's a good opportunity for these players to get out there and have a hit out and maybe start working towards where we want to be next year.